all the generations that grew up in the Depression from 1929 on up, that generations are almost all gone. I may be their last representative.
Not many Hollywood stars have had such an extensive career both in front of and behind the camera as actor and director Clint Eastwood. It's hard to believe, but this man is still actively working on projects, even though his career already spans more than 7 decades. Not particularly well received as an actor when starting out in the 50s, Eastwood was initially criticized for the way that he talked through his teeth, which would later become a trademark of his performances. He rose to fame through the success of the very popular spaghetti westerns of the 60s as the strong silent type, then took the director's chair for the first time in 1971. His movies have evolved in tone and content throughout the years, but also have several common denominators. So let's take a look at some of Clint Eastwood's directorial trademarks.
In order to become a director, I had to act in the pictures as a necessity. And so it kind of just became a habit over the years.
It always helps to have been an actor for a while before anyone takes up directing duties, and it certainly did for Eastwood. Because before trying his hand behind the camera himself, he worked in television for over 15 years, where he had to deal with a new director almost every week, learning the tricks of the trade and sometimes, more importantly, what not to do. And once he started directing, Clint got plenty of practice as well, because it would take him another 15 years and 13 relatively well-received feature films before he had his first certified flop in 1986 with the jazz biopic Bird. But even that was a learning experience, as 3 movies later he made the biggest hit of his career, the 1992 Oscar-winning Western Unforgiven.
Okay.
In 2000, he made another movie that was praised by critics and audiences alike, the action-adventure flick Space Cowboys, about a retired engineer who's called upon to rescue a failing satellite and insists that his equally old teammates accompany him into space. It's one of the very few movies that Eastwood's directed with elements of science fiction in it.
It is not so foreign to me, but in the Clint Eastwood environment of filmmaking, a fellow that loves the energy of first takes, shoot the rehearsal, move fast, this is a very tedious environment for him.
I like to work with a group of actors who are really good. I like to see it unfold and try to let it unfold. And when it starts unfolding, make sure that you're shooting when it's unfolding, not wasting the emotion and beating anybody up so it becomes dead air after a while.
So Clint prefers to shoot from the hip, as it were, and often focuses on American culture, particularly retelling important events of the recent past, from Changeling to American Sniper, from Jersey Boys to Richard Jewell. Clint also has a thing for the underdog. Yes, he became famous for playing tough guys like in his spaghetti westerns and the Dirty Harry films, but in his later works, he often presents normal people overcoming extraordinary obstacles. Films such as Space Cowboys, Sully, and Gran Torino. As opposed to many studio directors, Eastwood loves shooting panoramic outdoor shots, like the beautiful wide-sweeping images of the beach landing in 2006's Flags of Our Fathers, or the equally powerful Letters from Iwo Jima that same year. Not only are these 2 beautiful films, they're also very strong in concept. They both tell the story of the Battle of Iwo Jima between the United States and Imperial Japan, but Flags tells the story from the perspective of the Americans and Letters from the perspective of the Japanese. Clint was already a fan of Japanese culture and cinema from very early on.
I grew up, there was a little theater in Los Angeles back in the 50s. And I was living in Los Angeles, going to college, and I used to go to this theater. They ran strictly Japanese films, and that's the way I became introduced to the Seven Samurai and Rashomon, Yojimbo, and all of the films of Akira Kurosawa, who I became an immense fan of.
One of the things that has greatly influenced Eastwood's career as a director was the founding of his own production company in 1967, which enabled him to make movies without the interference of large studios. Due to this, he's learned to make very efficient films that are relatively low budget but usually quite profitable. And despite dozens of directing credits already under his belt, he's still creating new works. He may be over 90 years of age, but he's still got projects in the pipeline, and it's safe to say we probably won't see the last of Clint Eastwood anytime soon.
They're dumb enough to ask me. I'm dumb enough to get up and do it.